It's 6 p.m. on a Monday here in Korea. Welcome to our newscast. I'm Daniel Che. First, the headlines. President Park Geun-hye's Uganda visit brings numerous welcome developments. Kampala vows to sever military ties with Pyongyang, while an economic forum brings together 250 business leaders from both sides, and cultural events are held as a prelude to greater cultural exchanges to come. At the UN NGO Conference in Gyeongju, UN Chief Ban Ki-moon stresses the importance of education and calls on NGOs to help countries achieve sustainable development goals. On the sidelines, he urges media to stop interpreting his actions as presidential ambitions. The new National Assembly has a tough task of winning over unimpressed Korean citizens following their predecessors' various shortcomings. To get off to a fresh start, each party lays out how they plan to get the job done. Let's begin in Uganda, where President Park is wrapping up the second stop on her tour of East Africa. During her visit, she racked up several notable achievements in various sectors. Song Ji-sun gives us a review of the accomplishments from Kampala.
President Park leaves Uganda with an invaluable achievement toward reining in North Korea's nuclear ambitions. After summit talks, Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni vowed to disengage from all military and security cooperation with Pyongyang and vowed to comply with the UN sanctions on North Korea.
Uganda has been friendly to North Korea by starting to fully implement the UN sanctions on Pyongyang, and it will encourage other African nations to participate as well.
During her Africa trip, President Park has been seeking support for the global efforts to sanction North Korea, first at the African Union headquarters in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and now in Uganda, once a longtime ally of North Korea. In making the move, Uganda put practical and economic cooperation with Seoul before its ties with Pyongyang, as demonstrated in its push to adopt Seoul's Haemal-undong initiative to modernize its rural communities. President Park also attended the launch of an agricultural training center near the Ugandan capital of Kampala. It's the first of its kind in Africa and will provide training on Haemal-undong for 100 community leaders a year who can then apply the lessons back in their hometowns. President Park will soon be off to Nairobi, the last stop of our three-nation East Africa tour. Business will be the focus in Kenya, as it's the biggest economy in the region and functions as a transportation and logistics hub. Song Ji-sun, Arirang News, Kampala.
In addition to meeting with Uganda's leader, President Park also found time to launch a Korea-Uganda Business Forum on Sunday. More than 200 business leaders from the two countries were in attendance to discuss the potential opportunities. Kwon Jang-ho tells us more.
Like the speedy Impala, President Park Geun-hye said she hoped Korean and Ugandan businesses could find quick success working together. President Park launched the latest bilateral business forum on Sunday, bringing together some 250 business leaders from the two countries. 72 Korean businesses were in attendance, representing industries ranging from engineering to medical and biotech. President Park expressed a hope that through the exchange, the two countries can help each other in various ways, including agricultural development.
잘 아시다시피 한국은 지난 70년대 새마을 운동을 기반으로 성공적인 농촌 개발과 농업 발전 경험을 가지고 있습니다. 새마을 운동이 우간다에서도 체계적이고 지속적으로 진행된다면 우간다는 아프리카의 곡창으로 도약할 것이라고 확신합니다.
The president also said she's looking forward to Korea's involvement in Uganda's infrastructure projects, such as airports, energy and ICT, in addition to expanding Korea's presence in the medical and content industries. This is the latest in a series of business forums that have been arranged for President Park's swing through East Africa to increase trade ties in the region. Korea is considered a latecomer as countries like China and Japan have already made inroads there, but joining the action doesn't come without risks.
Of course, Africa has many promises, but it also has its problems, like the shortage of infrastructure. Even electricity is not available everywhere. But I would say that kind of obstacle can be overcome, and we see the examples of other companies from other countries doing their business quite successfully in the African continent.
But there are already signs of solid progress. At a one-on-one business event in Ethiopia on Friday alone, 13 deals worth a total of $24 million were signed. Kwon Jang-ho, Arirang News.
The South Korean president also called for more cultural cooperation with Uganda. This came as she watched some special performances by both countries on the last day in the East African country. For details, let's turn to Kim Mo-gyun.
On her final day in Uganda, President Park Geun-hye urged further cooperation with Uganda, especially in the cultural sector. The statement came as the Korean leader watched cultural performances on Sunday, including a b-boy dance, a taekwondo display, and traditional performances from Korea and Uganda. Around 1,500 people took part in the event held at a hotel in Kampala. They included Korea's Foreign Minister Yoon Byung-se and his Ugandan counterpart, Henry Oryem Okello. President Park said art and culture has the power to tear down walls between people and create friendly relations.
우리 양국이 앞으로 문화 교류에도 더욱 힘을 쏟아서 양국 국민들이 마음을 나눌 수 있으면 좋겠습니다. 한국 정부에서도 오늘과 같은 이런 어떤 공연 등을 통해서 양국 국민들이 서로 소통하고 하나가 되는 그런 기회를 더욱 자주 만들 수 있도록 노력해 나가겠습니다. 외발엔요.
President Park is more than halfway through a three-nation swing of East Africa. She is scheduled to travel to Nairobi on Monday to forge deeper economic and diplomatic ties with Kenya through summit talks with Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta. Kim Mo-gyun, Arirang News.
The UN NGO Conference kicked off on this Monday in South Korea's historical city of Gyeongju, marking the first time the event is being held in Asia. It is also the last stop of UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon's six-day visit to his home country. Our Kwon So-ah shares with us what the UN chief had to say about the future of sustainable development, as well as his personal goals.
The role non-governmental organizations have to play in helping countries achieve the UN's Sustainable Development Goals through education was underlined at the 66th UN NGO Conference in the southern city of Gyeongju Monday.
The conference proudly shows off a long history and is even more significant this time as it's being held in Asia for the first time.
In line with this year's theme, Education for Global Citizenship, United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon highlighted Korea as a successful example, citing its transformation from aid recipient to donor country. At a press conference following the opening ceremony, Ban fielded questions about his biggest achievement during his 2 terms as UN chief.
If you ask me today something which I feel proud of, as I said in Jeju Forum, there are 2 very outstanding visions and commitments the world has achieved and adopted. That is the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals with the 17 goals.
The other one, he said, was climate change.
Almost everybody in the world agrees that it was I, as a Secretary General, who really put this climate change in the high in the international agenda.
Ban also commented on speculation about his visit to Korea being linked to a possible presidential bid.
I'm asking you to refrain from stretched interpretations of my actions in Korea. There are many assumptions and reports on what I'll do in the future, but let me just tell you that it's I myself who knows best what I'll be doing, and I'll be the one having to decide.
Ban wrapped up his 6-day trip to his home country on Monday to return to New York amid lingering questions about what he will do after his term. But he told reporters that for now he is solely focused on successfully wrapping up his term as UN Secretary General, which ends exactly 7 months from now. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News, Gyeongju.
Moving on, the 20th National Assembly kicks off its 4-year term today, and all 3 main political parties vowed to work hard to make Parliament better at general meetings convened this morning. Our parliamentary correspondent Park Ji-won tells us what each party has vowed to do on the new Assembly's first day.
In a general meeting of its lawmakers, the ruling Saenuri Party confirmed the appointment of Kim Hee-ok as its new interim leader. Kim, a former justice and the former chairman of the Government Public Ethics Committee, will serve until the party convention in July. He said he will do his best to end the party's long-standing factional feuds, which cost the party its parliamentary majority in April's general election.
We plan to revamp party regulations so the party can officially and sternly punish members who attempt to harm the party's unity by engaging in negative factional activities.
The main opposition Minju Party of Korea, now the largest party in the new assembly, vowed to focus on the economy. Interim leader Kim Jong-in, who will serve in his position until the party convention in late August, asked lawmakers not to become mired in partisan strife, but to focus on solving livelihood issues. The party's floor leader delivered a similar message.
We expect the efforts and activities of the 123 lawmakers gathered here will become a new source of hope for the people as well as living proof of hope in Korea by giving people the notion that you are always there for them.
The minor opposition People's Party also vowed to make the 20th assembly different from the previous one by focusing on making a more productive parliament.
The 20th Assembly should be a conscientious parliament that can solve and improve people's livelihoods, and the People's Party should lead the way. We need to offer a vision for reviving the economy and initiate policies that can help us realize that vision.
Meanwhile, the deputy floor leaders of the main three parties began negotiations on filling key parliamentary posts, such as Assembly Speaker and the chairmen of the standing committees, so the Assembly can get started as soon as possible. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
5 months after Seoul and Tokyo reached a landmark deal on wartime sex slavery issues, South Korea is launching a preparatory committee Tuesday. This is a follow-up measure on implementing the agreement, a solid step forward. But according to our Connie Kim, there are still tasks Korea must tackle first.
A preparatory committee tasked with establishing a foundation for victims of wartime sexual slavery will launch Tuesday. It's a first step toward implementation of a landmark settlement on wartime sexual slavery reached in December. Under the agreement, Seoul and Tokyo had agreed to set up the foundation with the Japanese government, promising to contribute 1 billion yen or $9.1 million. Seoul's foreign ministry said in a joint statement released with the Gender Equality Ministry on Monday that the first meeting will take place Tuesday with 11 members. The committee is expected to discuss the future direction of the foundation and will prepare to launch the foundation as early as next month. Foundation of Reconciliation and Healing is currently being considered as a name in order to reflect the voices of sexual slavery victims. Although preparations for the foundation are already underway, Seoul still has a number of unfinished tasks to deal with first. Japan has been asking to remove the Comfort Women statue from its place outside the Japanese embassy in Seoul, though Korea says that was never part of the deal. Meanwhile, advocacy groups in Seoul have been calling for a complete renegotiation of the deal, saying the government must not ignore the voices of the surviving Comfort Women. 4 of the women have passed away since the deal was reached, and there are now just 42 remaining survivors. The groups say not all of the women agree with the deal, and many of them are calling for a sincere apology from the Japanese government. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
Confidence among Korean manufacturers remained subdued in May. According to the Bank of Korea, the business survey index came to 71, unchanged from the previous month. A reading below the benchmark 100 means pessimists outnumber optimists. But conglomerates were rather positive, with the index adding 2 points on month, while small and mid-sized companies' confidence edged down 1 point. All in all, manufacturers cited weak domestic consumption, uncertainties in the economic situation, as well as slowing exports as some of the lingering difficulties. Cell phones. The initial race was to make them as compact as possible, but with smartphones, bigger screens were all the rage. Local researchers are looking ahead as they develop the technology that allows screens to be folded easily and in a way that doesn't affect display quality. Kim Ji-yeon gives us a glimpse of what's to come.
How could smartphones look in the future? Perhaps the screen could curl as if made out of paper, making it lighter and easier to carry. That future may be closer than we think. A local research group says it has developed a core technology that can make displays fold easily by using transparent rubber that has a web of electrodes on the areas that fold. That way, the display quality would remain the same when folded, and it would not leave a scratch when unfolded again.
We've placed electrodes just at the bridges connecting the displays so they could increase the elasticity of the folding screens.
The expert adds that technology could also help developers to create large displays by connecting smaller screens without producing blind spots that typically affect larger displays. He also says that tech could also be useful in the development of wearable devices. Kim Jeon, Arirang News.
These are the stories we're following at this hour. For more updates, do tune in at 10 p.m. Korea time. From all of us here at Arirang News, thank you for watching.